I am live now. So hello, welcome if you're joining me tonight for this second of my Facebook Lives for 2020, because we're in a whole new energy, whole new era. And so doing these Facebook Lives is my way of sharing and stepping forward and creating community and really sharing insight and wisdom with you. So if you're joining me live tonight, thank you very much. It's great to see you. If you're watching this recording afterwards, welcome, and feel free to message me at any point during the call or after the call with any questions. The point of these Facebook Lives is really to be involved together and to share together and to explore things together so that we can all be moving forward. So tonight, the topic is to do with judgment and self-criticism and negative thought patterns. And if you joined me last week, I was talking about 2020 and what the new energy is. And that we're in not only a new decade, but a new era and a whole new energy. And what that's about. And I've had a lot of clients lately, particularly even the last week, talking about how they can feel this change happening, and there's a lot of tumultuous stuff going on the planet, but internally they have this sense of change and anticipation of change, and they're not really sure what it's about. They feel like, you know, what they're doing at the moment or how they're doing it or why they're doing it is in a process of change, but not really sure exactly what that change is about. So that's because there is a lot of shifts and changes happening on the planet at the moment. And we spoke last week also about some of the extreme events going on the planet. So there's extreme weather events, there's extreme global issues, there's extreme belief patterns going on the planet with some fanaticism, extreme social problems. Went through all of that last week. So if you didn't join me last week, by all means, scroll back through my page or my website and find the recording of the video so that you can catch up on that. There's change going on within us in response to that and because of that. And so it's important to actually not try and ignore that feeling and not try and squash it down and pretend it's not there, and not try and wait for things to get really calm and settle back down into a new normal, because there kind of is no new normal. It's not going to settle down. We're meant to be unsettled at the moment because things really need to change on the planet and within us in terms of the way that we go about being who we are on the planet and our way of operating. So with all the change, it's important to step out of our comfort zone, realize this is a period of stretch and finding new ways of being and of doing, and looking to see where we can change internally to create a new external way of being and operating, not just individually in our own life, within our own family, in our own workplace, in our own domain, but actually within the world and where we're showing up in the world. So if you're joining me live on the call, please feel free to say hi in the chat box and to ask me any questions along the way as we go along. So 2020 is an energy to do with balance. Think about the numbers, 2020. It's about equality that comes with balance. It's about vision, 2020 vision, having a clear vision. And it's really about alignment, aligning within ourself. I just want to make sure I've got the chat enabled. If you've joined me live, can you maybe say hi in the chat box just so I can see who's on, because I'm not seeing who's on the call as people are joining. Hi, as you're joining, I'm not seeing, and I wonder if I'm missing an option here that I'm not seeing who is on the call. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's coming up now. Cool. Hi, Joe. Thanks for joining. Okay, so it's a new energy. Hi, gorgeous. It's a new energy, and as I mentioned last week, what's going on the planet is really like a gigantic mirror for us to look in and to see what is that showing us about the underlying energy of what's happening on the planet, what's going on around us, so that we can actually see where we need to shift our energy to find new ways of operating. Nothing is separate, and that's one of the things I'm going to be speaking to tonight. Is we operate under an illusion that things are separate. I'm separate to you, you're separate to me, I'm separate to the world outside of me, I'm separate to the things that I want to experience. And at the moment, a lot of the extreme patterns that are happening, hi Joe, thank you for saying hi. A lot of the extreme patterns that are happening because we're operating under this illusion of separation. So what I want to explore tonight is one of the extreme patterns that are happening on the planet, and how you can use it to look into that global mirror and see perhaps what it's telling you about what's going on internally within you, that you might like to do something to shift your energy to find a new way of operating in this new decade, in this new era, so that you can really be aligning with all that you are and all that you're here to be. So I've been talking about extreme weather events, and the weather is really to do, what's happening on the planet is really to do with the elements. So we've got extreme hurricanes and storms happening on the planet. That's to do with the elements of air, all the air whirling around with hurricanes. And the element of air within us is connected with our mental energy, so the energy of our thought patterns. And that's what we're going to be exploring more tonight. We've got the element of water being really extreme at the moment on the planet in terms of floods and rising sea levels. So the element of water is to do with our emotional body. We have extreme weather events happening to do with the element of fire on the planet, the bushfires, global warming, and the volcanic eruptions even. And the energy of fire is really to do with the heat within us and our passion and our soul's innovation and our soul's motivation and our heart energy. And we've also got the energy of the earth. We've got earthquakes and landslides, and the element of earth within us is to do with the physical body and the actions, the physical actions we take, so how we physically interact within the world. So whatever's going on the planet on that purely physical, natural level, nature's always trying to find balance. So if things are out of balance on the natural level, there's probably something within us on that elemental level of air, fire, water, or earth, of our thoughts, our motivations, our emotions, our actions. There's something within us that's out of balance, that is being shown to us through the external environment that we're living in, that is an opportunity for us to shift our energy, get more aligned, move forward differently in the way we be in the world, in the way we show up, in the things that we're manifesting and creating in our experience. So tonight I want to explore one particular element, just to give you a taste of this. Just going to move some notes up. We're going to explore the air element, okay, and how that relates to our everyday world. If you've just joined the call, welcome. Say hi in the chat box. Lovely to see you here, and thank you for joining me and everyone here in this community. So we're going to talk about the element of air and what that energy is showing us. So the element of air, as I just mentioned, is to do with our mental energy. All this stuff going on up here, although our thoughts affect the whole of our body. And on that purely physical level, air is throughout our body. We breathe in air. It's the prana, the life force energy that we breathe in. So air is needed to oxygenate our body. Our blood carries that oxygen throughout our body that enlivens our body and enables us to, hi Kimberly, enables us to be breathing and living, therefore. So air is really vital to us on the physical level. So let's look at what's happening on the global level with the energy of air, the element of air, and how that relates to us individually. So there's a couple of things that are happening with the element of air. We've got a lot of pollution in our air, and the bushfires have certainly added to that as well. And we also have the energy of hurricanes, a lot of wind. I've had some trees blow over in my home in Sydney, even though I'm living in Melbourne at the moment. There's been a lot of damage by the element of air, with a lot of excess of air and extreme air. So this is to do with our mental energy. And if you think about it, air pollution and mental energy, where are we polluted? Where do we have toxicity in our mental energy, in the energy of our thoughts? So our mental energy is to do with our thoughts, our judgments, our criticisms, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we think. There's a lot of different aspects there to our mental energy. And air in and of itself is not harmful, it's not toxic, but it can be a destructive energy like any element. It can be constructive, it can be building things, and it can be destructive in its energy. It can be destroying things. So where our mental energy can become destructive is in elements like judgments, the way we judge ourselves, the way we judge other people, the way we judge the world around us. When we judge ourselves and other people, the world around us, there's a toxicity that comes with that. There's the energy of condemnation. When I judge myself harshly, negatively, I'm condemning myself. When I judge you negatively, I'm condemning you. I'm saying you're good or you're bad. If it's a negative judgment, it's obviously I'm saying you're bad in some way, that what you're doing is wrong in some way. And that's a very harmful energy. It's a condemning energy that doesn't just say what you're doing is bad or wrong, but who you are as a person is bad or wrong. So that's why self-judgment and negative self-talk can be so harmful, because we're really condemning ourselves. We're saying that as a person, we're wrong, we're bad, we're not okay, we're not acceptable. And so our judgments and our criticisms of self and other can be very harmful and toxic energy that's effectively floating out there in the airwaves as the vibrational frequency of our thoughts that we're giving out. It's like we're like a radio tower that is, through our mental energy, through the energy of our thoughts, consistently giving out those waves, that frequency of thought that we're thinking, that can become very toxic energy. So it's very, not only symbolic, but it's kind of little wonder that our air is getting a lot more polluted through our fixed views and our judgments. And that's one of the first ways that we separate. A lot of the problems that are going on the planet at the moment, the social problems, the racism, the intolerance, the fanaticism, the political antagonism, the civil unrest, is really, and our lack of awareness about the planet and the destructive impact that we've had on the planet, is to do with our sense of separation. And I mentioned the illusion of separation, that thinking that everything is separate to us. And judgment is the first way in which we actually separate. When I look at myself or I look at you and I think a negative thought, mental energy, air, and I judge you and I, in the process, condemn you, I'm really saying you're separate to me, or I'm judging myself as being separate to who I really am. And it's that voice that separates, that voice of our mind that sees things as separate, that is actually able to do the judging and the criticizing and the negative self-talk that says, I'm bad, I'm not good enough as a person, who I am is not acceptable. Hi Bernice, thanks for joining. Lovely to see you here. It's those negative thoughts that are really our first step in separating. Think about it for a moment. You can't have a negative thought about yourself, a negative judgment, a self-criticism, without there being someone that's doing the criticizing. Just in the thinking of that thought, we're immediately separating from ourself. And in having that thought that who I am is not good enough, is not acceptable, is not okay, is not worthy, is not deserving, we're separating from ourselves and condemning ourselves. We're giving ourselves negativity, toxicity, using the element of air to really condemn, blame, judge, and put ourselves down, diminish ourselves. And so our energy becomes smaller and smaller, our sense of self becomes diminished, and it becomes difficult to breathe. So within ourselves, so judgment is one aspect of the air element, the way we use our mental energy, the energy of our thoughts, to judge ourselves. We can also use our mental energy in a destructive way in terms of our limiting thoughts, the beliefs we have, the stories we tell ourselves that limit us, that keep us small, that keep our perception of the world small. We become small-minded. The assumptions we make, the perceptions we have that are fixed and not flexible and not flowing can really limit us and create a hardening of our attitudes where we're not actually able to see beyond the stories that we tell ourselves. And so our world becomes smaller as a result. And we become more separate, and the things that we want become more further away from us and more difficult for us to achieve. So we start to go in this downward spiral in our mental energy that creates a smallening, not quite sure what the right word is for that, but a decrease in the way we see ourselves and the way we see ourselves in the world around us and what the possibilities are. So a diminishing on all levels. And then, of course, we've got the opposite energy of air, where it's much more chaotic rather than that heavy energy of judgment and the smallness of limiting beliefs and stories. We can have the more whirlwind, that chaotic energy. So rather than the air pollution, the pollution of our mental energy, we can have more of the hurricane energy. And there's a lot of that on the planet at the moment in terms of a lot of anxiety and worry and stress, mental stress, where our thoughts are going faster and faster and whirlwind and really, overthinking, overanalyzing, being in that anxious state. And it's very easy for us to be in that state at the moment, particularly with everything kind of speeding up. Hi Susie, hi Mark, thank you for joining me tonight. Welcome. Please add any comments in the chat box and I'll keep up with it. So we're looking at the mental energy and that whirlwind energy where there's an excess of mental energy in our own mind, and we can't still our thoughts. It's difficult to relax. We need a glass of wine to wind down at the end of the day. Meditation is difficult because all the mental chatter just is non-stop. And we have very busy minds, so that's a very busy mental energy, and that plays out in the world, and as it plays out in the world, it also affects us. So, we're constantly being mentally stimulated through social media, through, being tied to our electronic devices, our computers and our phones. We've lost our ability for a lot of us to be able to just relax and simply be. We're constantly being stimulated, so we're in this cycle of having to constantly do. And the moment we have a quiet space in our life, we're looking for, what do I need to do? What can I do? And when there's nothing to do, we'll pick up our phone and start scrolling social media or reading emails, or so much mental stimulation. And you see it with young children as well, that they're becoming so mentally stimulated they really don't know how to relax. And perhaps some of the ADD, ADHD, overstimulation of energy can be also attributed to a lot of the mental energy that's going on the planet at the moment. And the change in our lifestyles and the way that we're not as grounded in our own energy, so it becomes difficult for us to anchor our energy. And so we become much more caught up in the mind, more worried, more anxious. Joe, I agree. I find with air, if you take a big breath in with good energy and out with negative thoughts, love that. Breathe in the good, breathe out the negative. and couple it with water, it completely cleanses the mind. Diving through a wave of water and breathing in as you go under and out as you come through. Beautiful. We're going to be talking about the element of water next week, so it's a lovely combination of how you can work with the two. And stay on the call to the end, because we're going to do an exercise at the end that is exactly how we can use the elements differently to relax our mental energy, to calm the mind, to become more centered and grounded and anchored and aligned in who we are, and connected ultimately with our higher mind, our higher self, our soul, our spirit, who we're here to be, so that we can, instead of being caught in a whirlwind of our busy mental thoughts, we can actually be here, be connected with our heart, our soul, our higher self, and show up fully in the world rather than being spun around by our thoughts. So that's some of the ways in which the mental energy can play out destructively. But of course, everything has two sides. I love the expression, it doesn't matter how thinly you slice the pancake, there's always two sides of it. So with our mental energy, there's also a constructive side to it, as there is with all of the different elements. And the constructive use of the element of air is our imagination, giving ourselves permission to dream, to think of new ideas. When we just can relax the mind and allow new ideas to come in, new stories to come in, to have a fresh perspective on things, to see things, to think of things in a clearer way, to have clarity of thought, to have that mental focus rather than the scattered chaotic energy. That's all constructive uses of the element of air. It's our imagination, when we can allow ourselves to imagine limitless possibilities rather than stories that limit and belief patterns that limit us. When we can open up our mind, instead of being small-minded, we can be open-minded. That's where we're really using the element of air constructively within our individual life. And then that has a ripple effect. We spoke last week about the power of the ripple effect that we have. It has a ripple effect in terms of the effect we have on others. Hi, Susie. Yes, Joe, thank you for that comment. While Mother Nature can cause destruction, we can also use it to go to and draw on its beautiful energy to release and relax the mind. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in just a little while. Our mental energy is also connected with our understanding. So when our thoughts are very toxic, it's difficult for us to have a clear understanding of what it is that we're looking at and a clear appreciation of it. And our awareness becomes distorted by the thoughts that we're thinking if we're caught up in the habits of judgment and negative criticism and condemnation in our mental habits. So it's really important that we learn how to use our mental energy in constructive ways rather than destructive ways, so that it can actually uplift us and open our perspective and show us the limitless possibilities that are available to us and enable us to really align. When you take a big breath in, it's your heart, it's your lungs, it's the opening of who you are to align with the best that you can be. And then we take the best that we are in that moment out into the world, and that energy touches others. And it has a positive uplifting, like a balloon being uplifted, it has a positive uplifting effect on those around us. And that's where the ripple effect comes in, because we spoke last week about how it's so easy at the moment to feel like, who am I? Thought pattern. First thought we think, who am I? I'm just one person. There's so much stuff going on the planet. Things are difficult in my life. I'm just one person. How can I have any positive effect on the world? But actually it's the ripple effect we have just through our energy, just through the energy of our thought patterns, as those transmission towers, those beacons of mental energy that are sending out the energy of our thought patterns into the greater consciousness of which we're all part, the mass consciousness, the consciousness of the masses. When we can change the energy of our thought patterns, that has a ripple effect on the mass consciousness that is operating on the planet. And that then has a positive effect in terms of the state of the air we breathe in the planet, in terms of the thoughts we take on that are operating on the planet, the consciousness of our society and the world around us that we're absorbing all the time through media headlines, through the entertainment we watch, through things that people tell us, through stories we're told, through goings on at work. We're constantly absorbing mental energy, and if we can be a drop of clear, fresh air in the thoughts we think going out into those environments, then we're having a massive effect. Whether we see the direct outcome of it or not, you can be that change agent within yourself that has a positive consequence in the world around you. And this is where it's so important. 2020 is really about taking personal responsibility for the energy we're giving out. And the first energy that we give out is the energy of our thoughts. So when we can become a positive, cleansing mental energy on the planet, we're having a positive effect. And what's interesting is when we become stressed, when we have a stress response to whatever's going on around us, the first thing that changes is our breathing. We start to take short breaths at the top of our lungs. We lose our ability to take long, slow breaths, and we go into that fight or flight response. So when we can change our breathing and we can change our thought patterns, then our whole energy shifts and changes. And so let's look at that now. Let's do a little bit of exploration, and everyone join in the conversation through the chat box. We will eventually move to Zoom for these calls so I can see your faces and hear your voices, but for now it's on Facebook Live. So please, everyone that's on the call, and for you that watch the call afterwards, bring your comments into the chat box, whether it's live or after the event, and we can all participate in the conversation and join in it together. So let's look at the energy of air, the element of air, and how it's operating in your life at the moment. So what I want you to do is to just close your eyes and just feel into your body, feel into your world at the moment, feel into your life, what's going on around you, what's going on within you. Just feel into the mental energy. Feel into the energy of your thoughts and just get a sense of, how does my mental energy feel at the moment? Is it overactive? Is there a lot of churning, anxiety, worry, stress? Is it underactive? Maybe my thoughts have become a bit heavy, a bit stagnant, a bit polluted, a bit toxic. How does the energy of my thoughts feel at the moment? And just type a couple of words in the chat box, or a whole paragraph, whatever comes. How does your mental energy feel at the moment? For me, I've had a weekend away. It's been a really busy time, so I noticed that my mental energy was a bit overactive today, and I need to do some meditation to just kind of calm things down. So just add in the chat box how your mental energy is at the moment. How does it feel? Anxiety, stress, sadness, helplessness? Thanks, Kimberly. Anyone else like to add their comments? Does it feel open and expansive, or a little bit contracted, or a bit of tension or tightness there? Just notice how it feels. Mark, I got your comment there. I love when walking up to the shops without any distractions. Yes, the mind is clear. My imagination loves to have free rein, often playing out in a new way that links to my intuition and innate gifts. Pretty cool. Yes, that is very cool. That's where your mental energy is flowing beautifully. So Mark said, horsey vision and the word rain. Maybe my mental energy is a little too much in control at present. Or maybe it's reining things in. Yeah. Joe, my mental energy is always grateful, although little uncertain of the future. Yes, that uncertainty is definitely one area where our mental energy immediately reacts. When the ego does not like uncertainty. Our egoic mind is there to protect us. It's part of our survival. So it's not something we need to get rid of. But when we're feeling a bit of uncertainty, and certainly, no pun intended, certainly at the moment things are very uncertain on a global level. There's a lot of change happening. Thank you for those laughs. When there's a lot of change going on around us, there's a lot of uncertainty, and so our ego kicks in and tries to grab control of things. And that can be reflected through our thought patterns in terms of worry, anxiety, stress. Susie, a bit dull, flat, but optimistic. So some of that dullness can also be mental fatigue from what's going on around us. And that flat is the air. If you think of a balloon that's filled with air and then it becomes a bit flat, a bit depressed, it's because there's can be because there's a lack of air energy. So sometimes when we're feeling depressed, it's a depression in our energy field, like the air going out of a balloon where it's been stretched and then it kind of sags and gets a bit flat and dull and a bit heavy, and slowly the energy becomes compressed and depressed. And so our mental energy is definitely part of when we're feeling depressed. We're not inflated, we're not elated with our mental energy, with our vision for the future, with our dreaming and our imagining of new ideas and new possibilities. Hi Jill, welcome. Joe said, many decisions to make. I'm praying for the right direction that I know shall come. So definitely connecting in with your guidance when it comes to the uncertainty at the moment and making decisions is really an important part of it. Allowing our mind to be guided rather than our mental energy coming in and trying to control and have the certainty that we look for. But if it's a time of change and we're meant to be unsettled, then when we learn to look at it differently and go, this is great, things are changing, new things can be born out of this uncertainty and out of this time of change, new ways of being, new ways of operating, then that quietens the mind of the ego and allows our higher mind to come in and inspire us. So taking that further beyond feeling your mental energy and where it's at, let's look at what are some of my mental habits, what are some of the patterns within my mental energy around some of the things that we mentioned. So what are some of my patterns and mental habits around judgment or self-talk or assumptions? You might like to write it down or definitely type it in the box so we can explore these things together. What are some of my mental habits when it comes to my thought patterns? So just close your eyes and contemplate that. What are some of the habits I have in terms of my mental energy, my thought patterns, my judgments, my talk, the stories I tell myself? What are some of the patterns there? What are some of the recurring stories? What are some of the assumptions I tend to make about myself, about others, people, about the world around me? And just add them into the chat box. What are some of the habits I'm aware of? Maybe I'm quick to think a negative thought, or I'm a bit pessimistic in my thinking, or I tend to be hard on myself, or put myself down, or tell myself that I'm inadequate or not good enough, or that other people are better or know more, or I should be more this or less that. If you close your eyes and just ask to be shown, what are some of my mental habits? What are some of the ways I judge, criticize, talk to myself that might be a bit more destructive rather than constructive? Just add it into the chat box. What are my quick to think? Or what are my fallback thoughts? Or what are my automatic assumptions that I make about myself or other people? Maybe it's a thought pattern of immediately when something is presenting itself thinking, I don't know the answer, I don't know the right way, or I can't do that, that would be too difficult for me, that would be impossible, there's no way I could. Okay, so Kimberly said, I give too much of myself to others and it causes me to not take that time needed for me. So Kimberly, that's a great example. What's the thought pattern that's underneath that habit of giving too much of myself to others and not giving enough to me? Maybe it's a thought pattern of I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, other people are more important, I should be taking care of other people need me, I need to be there for others, it's my role, my responsibility. Yeah, maybe it's a mum thing. Definitely I can relate to that we get in the habit of thinking that other people are more important. We have to rush to our children's cries and demands, and what that ultimately teaches our children is that they're entitled to have an immediate response, that they're more important than the person that's actually assisting them. So just being aware of what the underlying thought is. It might even be a thought pattern around, as a mother, I'm not a good mum unless I'm looking after other people and putting other people first. It might be a thought or a belief pattern around people pleasing. It's I need to be liked. I want other people to be okay with me, to think that I'm a good mum. I want to ensure that other people's perceptions of me are that I'm a caring person or a generous person or a kind person or I'm doing the right thing. Yeah, as a carer. Thank you, Kimberly. It's a carer role. What are the thought patterns that we attach to being a carer? What are the shoulds, the expectations, the judgments we put on ourselves? If we were to put ourselves first and others second, what are the judgments we would put upon ourselves as a result of that? It's really about becoming aware of what are the underlying thought patterns. And particularly as a mum, I personally found that it didn't matter where I was turning, what I was doing, there was always an area where I was falling short. So I was feeling a sense of guilt that I wasn't doing enough of this, or could be doing more of that, or I should be doing this, or my children should be doing that, and what did that reflect back on me as a mother? Balancing between work and raising children and having a partner and running a home and managing finances and all those balls that we juggle, all the different roles we fulfill, the underlying thought patterns around the job that we're doing and how well we're doing it will determine whether our thought patterns are constructive, whether they're helping us and uplifting us and supporting us to be all that we're here to be, or whether they're beating us down and diminishing our sense of self and causing our energy field to become deflated, that life becomes harder and even more of a struggle. Joe, my mental thought patterns are always positive. I wake every morning and say good affirmations and pray for goodness to all I love and all that love me. I ask for guidance. I never get up until my mind is filled with life is good and I can do this type of attitude. My day always starts with good and grateful thoughts. When I know I can, then it actually happens. Even when I'm feeling down, I'll keep something to myself. I'll talk to myself in a positive way. So it's a great way of using, even when I'm down, using that mental energy to reinflate the balloon, re-expand our energy field, uplift our mental energy, and talk to us in those positive ways that Joe has given us such a beautiful example. So saying good affirmations first thing in the morning is a way of clearing and uplifting our mental energy that it takes us up in the day rather than waking up and thinking, mental energy, thinking, another day, I don't know if I can do this, thinking about all the things on our to-do list and becoming overwhelmed, thinking that we don't have enough time to get everything done, thinking I'm not good enough to do all the things that need doing, worrying about how things are going to play out in the day, feeling anxious about trying to have certainty in what's happening and trying to control life so that our egoic mind is happy and satiated. So that's a great example, Joe. Thank you for sharing it, of how we can use our mental energy to uplift ourselves. Mark has shared, my thoughts can be like a roller coaster ride. Yep. At times I'm very hard on myself, other times optimistic and aware of what I'm feeling, my needs, in line with moving forward. So yes, that roller coaster energy of my thoughts can be up, and then the second something happens in our external environment that we become deflated about, we can go down and our mental energy can drop down. So it can be doing this, it can be doing this busyness, it can be doing that flatness. So, think of energy and the different ways energy can move and shift and change and become stuck and lose its energy or become over-energized. That's the energy of our mind and our thought patterns. Susie, my fallback behavior is to distract myself, excellent, from the situation by unhealthy behaviors such as watching TV, overeating. The underlying thought is I am hopeless because my life is seemingly not as successful, happy as other lives. Oh my gosh, Susie, if we're in a room of 1,000 people, 900 and something people would be putting their hands up and joining you with that one. So feeling like I'm hopeless because my life is not appearing the same way as other people's lives, when we compare ourselves. Comparing ourselves is a sure way of deflating our mental energy, because there will always be someone that we can compare ourselves with whose life appears to be better and appears to have more of the things that we want, where that causes us to think negative thoughts about ourselves and our mental energy to become deflated. So that's a really... And then we use things like overeating, watching TV as a distraction. And that's brilliant that you mentioned distraction, because again, that is our mental energy. When we become stressed and uncomfortable, we get into the habit of distracting ourselves rather than working with that mental energy in the moment and saying, how can I shift my energy right now, rather than through distraction and avoidance, which does nothing to change our underlying state. How can I shift my energy right now as I'm in this state of feeling uncomfortable, noticing the habit, I've just compared myself with someone. What's that done to my mental energy? What's the underlying thought pattern or story I'm telling myself right now? I'm not as good as other people. They seem to have their life together. My life seems a bit difficult at the moment. How can I do something with that mental energy that is the initiating force in that whole sequence of events? What can I do to shift my energy to actually reinflate my energy, not with a false sense of ego, but with a true sense of self, and align with who I truly am, with my heart, my soul, and my higher self, that we can then use this element of air, our mental energy, to shift the way we be in the world. That then we don't need to go and watch TV for hours on end until we can forget about our woes. We don't need to eat ourselves into a food coma. Of course, I have no idea what we're talking about here. My personal preference would be a packet of Tim Tams. But we don't then go and do those behaviors, drink that extra glass of wine or 2 or 3 or 4, that then layer on top of it mental energy of shame, of guilt, of being angry with ourselves. Why did I do that? That we pick up that stick of self-flagellation that we beat ourselves over the head and the back and tell ourselves how bad we are for having reacted in the ways that we did. So it's about changing the way we're reacting to what's going on around us and not being driven in our reactions by our external circumstances. Actually regaining that sense of alignment and control of our mental energy in terms of working with the mental energy rather than trying to control it. So that to take Joe's example of thinking positive thoughts, if we tell ourselves the story that we can only think positive thoughts and we always have to think positive thoughts, then that equally can become a lack of balance in our mental energy in terms of, something that needs our attention, that needs to be looked at, that might not be pretty to look at, could actually be pushed aside because we're in the habit of only thinking positive thoughts. Not that I'm saying that's what you're doing, Joe, but it is really about being aware of our thoughts and what they're telling us, because there might be some deeper underlying intuition that's coming through, that something is catching our attention, and it might not be pretty. It might be something that we really need to look at because there's a change needed in our life. So we don't want to blind ourselves mentally. Going to the ocean every day. Okay, it's not easy being single. That it can be quite tiring. Yes. So what are the underlying thoughts there that might be creating that experience, and how can we use our mental energy to do things differently to support us if we're single, or if we're the sole income earner and things are difficult financially, or if we're the sole carer for someone else, or how, whatever our life circumstances are. Look at what the underlying thought patterns are and how we might shift our energy there. Hi Sonia, thank you for joining. Okay, so then let's also just drill a little bit deeper in terms of our mental energy, in terms of just closing our eyes and going inwards and just noticing what areas of my life do I tend to be judgmental. Again, looking at how we use our mental energy, and specifically, are there particular areas of our life or aspects of ourself where we might be using that element of air, our mental energy, in a judgmental way to ourself? Or it might be judgmental of others. So is there a particular area of my life where that mental energy of judgment or criticism or negative self-talk is particularly strong? Maybe it's to do with finances, maybe it's to do with a physical appearance, our body image, maybe it's to do with what other people think of us. Just notice, in what areas do I tend to be judgmental of myself? And just type it in the chat box. Where do my thoughts tend to go in terms of I'm not good enough or I'm inadequate? I should do things differently, do things better. Maybe my thoughts tend to be more negative in terms of my friendships or my family relationships, or at work, or when I'm being asked to try new things or do new things. Where do I tend to be judgmental? In what areas? Anyone like to add into the chat box? It might be about other people. It might be thoughts to do with other people being successful. I tend to be more judgmental there. If not about myself, it might be to do with other people. So Mark has said life purpose, mastering something, scared of risk. Yeah, so just notice what are my thought patterns in that area. Am I telling myself it's not safe to take a risk, or I'm going to fail, or I need to be more skilled, qualified, experienced before I can do what I feel like I'm being called to do? Notice what the patterns of judgment are. Kimberly has said, maybe stop apologizing, as I'm a good mum, friend, and family person. Beautiful, great turnaround in the mental energy there, in the energy of your thoughts. Absolutely stop apologizing. I'm doing my best. I know I'm doing my best, all things considered. That's a great turnaround of mental energy I use in my clinic when working with clients. There's a release point on the body which is to do with the heart meridian. It's any of you who have worked directly with me, had a healing session, you'll know that we do some tapping, and this point here is the heart meridian point where we can release any forgiveness. So I fully forgive myself, knowing that I do the best I know how, all things considered. And that last phrase, all things considered, is what really enables the egoic mind to be put to rest, because all things considered, given everything that's going on, everything that I know, that I don't know, everything that's going on around me, all the circumstances, everything that I'm dealing with, I'm doing the best I know how, all things considered. I'm a great mum. I'm a great husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, son, daughter, employee, manager, friend, carer. I'm doing the best I know how, all things considered. That's a great turnaround. And by all means, use this tapping point, either pinky on the inside of your pinky finger, particularly when it comes to forgiving ourselves and shifting our mental energy. So right there is a change we can do. You're welcome, Kimberly. Any of you that use essential oils, I have my Easy Air oil here. Hopefully you can see that. And Easy Air is to do with, as the name suggests, breathing. You can just open that up and take a whiff of that. It's to do with opening up the lungs, and so it's our relationship with air. When we're using this blend of essential oils, it helps open up our ability to receive the air, to receive that fresh, new mental energy, to let go of the old negative thought patterns and judgments and self-criticism. So that's another way of working with the energy. Joe has said, I'd like to be able to talk to people more about my feelings, as I'm always listening and counseling others, and I do love this. I love loving people, although I need to learn to reach out myself. So Joe, again, look at what's the underlying thought pattern that might be determining that behavior, that I'm always listening, but maybe I'm not allowing myself to be heard, to be listened to. Maybe I'm not worthy or deserving, or other people's problems are more important than mine. Other people are more important than me. Or I certainly, one of my fundamental thought patterns and stories I've told myself over my lifetime is that I'm boring. I have nothing interesting to say, which is a really constructive thought pattern for someone who is here to speak and share with the world. Not. So, looking at what the underlying thought pattern is and turning that around. So thank you everyone for sharing around that. So let's look at how we can shift our mental energies, change those judgments, those criticisms, turn the energy around, clear it, shift it, release it, open it, expand it, that we have a more expanded sense of our thoughts, our mental energy, and as a result, the entirety of our energy field and who we're being, and how our thoughts then support us in our motivation and our drive and our imagination and our showing up and our ability to show up in the world and to be open to the limitless possibilities that are available to us. Let's reinflate that balloon, that it becomes a beautiful big balloon, a beautiful big energy field, that we feel empowered by our mental energy rather than diminished. So what we're going to do now is just a closed eyes exercise. And I want you, as you close your eyes, to just, let's use the air in our lungs. Let's take a few slow, deep breaths. Breathing in fresh, new energy, breathing out the old energy. And as we do that, what we can do is we can call back any toxic energy that we might have been putting out through our negative thought patterns, our judgments about self and other people. We can just call that gently back and send that down into the earth. The earth is a great cleanser for our energy. So this is one way we can just take responsibility for the energy we've been putting out by just calling back any toxic mental energy that we've been giving out and just asking that to go down into the earth. Imagine sending that down into the earth and allowing the earth to transmute that energy, that it becomes healed and cleared. And then once we've done that, just take a couple of slow breaths in. And just asking the question, how can I be more at peace in my mental energy? How can I be more at peace within that element of air within me? What is needed to calm that air element within me, the energy of my thoughts? What is needed within me to bring more balance and calmness to my mental energy? Maybe it's a little bit more empathy. That's a word that Joe mentioned in the chat box. Maybe it's to realize that we're all connected, we're all one, we're all part of humanity, we're all human, we all do the best we know how. Maybe it's a little bit more acceptance rather than judgment. What is it that I need to accept right now that will enable my mental energy to find a new level of balance, new level of acceptance, new level of calmness, new level of empathy, new level of care? And just allow that element of air to answer within you, to think the thoughts for you as to what is needed. Allow your intuition to guide what is needed to help bring that element of air into more balance within me, to bring my thoughts into more balance, to bring the balance into a more open, expansive way of viewing myself and the world around me, a more connected way of viewing myself and the world around me. And as your eyes remain closed, call upon the element of air within you to open up your imagination, to use the energy of your thoughts to dream new possibilities, to create new ideas, to open up new opportunities. What new possibilities can that element of air, can my mental energy imagine within me? What would be new ways of seeing things, new ways of being in the world that my imagination can show me right now? Maybe it's when I wake up in the morning before my feet touch the ground, I just allow the element of air to think and breathe one positive thought through me that can energize my body, my energy field, my world. Maybe it's to give myself time out every week to dream new possibilities, to imagine new ideas, to allow the energy of creativity to come through my mental energy. Whatever it is, just allow the answer to come. Kimberly has shared, old energy be gone. I am going to become stronger for me today. Today will become a positive journey. That can be my morning mantra. That's beautiful. That is really using the power of your mental energy, of your thoughts, of your element of air to uplift you as the day goes forward. And Kimberly, to even take that thought pattern further and to say, if the old energy is gone, rather than focusing on the old energy, what's the new energy that can be brought in? So old energy be gone, new energy come in. Today I am stronger. I'm focusing on my strength, my positivity, the journey ahead, and I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to my day ahead. So using the power of our imagination. And then how can I use the energy of my thoughts to really connect with myself, my heart, my soul, my higher self, the people around me, in a more connected way, rather than seeing everything as being separate to us? How can I use the energy of my thoughts to feel and see that everything is connected? We're all interconnected. There is no separation. So using the power of our thoughts to remind ourselves, I'm connected with everything. I'm part of the greater all that is. I'm connected with my higher self, my soul, my inner guidance. My guidance speaks clearly through me. Everything I need is available to me. Everything I need is already within me. I am at one with the world around me. I have compassion for the people in my life, for the people in the world. Everyone is doing the best they know how. How can I use my mental energy to connect with self and with the world around me? That then I'm sending out that ripple of mental energy, those sound waves of my thought patterns that are going out into the world and creating a greater sense of oneness within that greater mass consciousness of which we're all part. And then lastly, as your eyes are still closed, imagine a beautiful, gentle breeze just slowly blowing around you, through you, beautiful calming winds of change. Allow the air element within you to bring through you the winds of change. To breathe them in, fresh new thoughts, fresh new air. Imagine you're breathing in the cleanest, freshest air, and imagine all of that going throughout your body, through your blood system, oxygenating not just your mind, your brain, but all of your blood, your organs, your cells, everything being oxygenated with fresh new air, fresh new thoughts, open, expansive energy. As the winds of change bring you into alignment with who you truly are, the fullest expression of who you are here to be. As your lungs expand with that beautiful, fresh, clean air, the cleanest, freshest air you can imagine, allow that to energize your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, to fill your energy field, to uplift your energy, knowing that this element of air within you is here to assist you, to enable you to be all you've come here to be. And call on the element of air to cleanse your thoughts, to bring you fresh new ideas, to clear your mind. That you can be at one with that element within you, at one with your thoughts, at one with the air. Enlivening new possibilities within you, blowing away all toxic thoughts and enlivening new possibilities within you. And then take a couple of slow, deep breaths. Give your fingers and toes a bit of a wriggle and gently open your eyes when you feel ready to come back. Hi Amanda, thanks for joining. We're just finishing up. You might have heard the tail end there. Joe, you said the angels shared with you that you have nothing to fear. That's a beautiful, empowering, uplifting thought. To start the day with, I have nothing to fear. That knowing, that mental, deep knowing, rather than just the thought, but that deep knowing within you is beautiful. Susie shared, I accept my thoughts, but not engage, believe in the thoughts that are not helpful. Beautiful way of working with the air element, that mental energy. This will allow space for me to really listen and connect to other sentient beings. Well said, that space is also the element of air. It's that expansive energy. So allowing space to really listen. How do we listen? We listen through sound, traveling through air, through space. So what you shared, Susie, is spot on. That's a new way of using the element of air. And there's lots of different ways we can work with it. Next week we're going to be exploring the energy of water, which is emotions, and how our thoughts trigger our emotions. So the air energy triggers the water energy, and there's certainly a lot of water stuff going on the planet. So we're going to be looking into that mirror and seeing what's going on with our emotional body and how we can shift our energy there on the emotional level. So week by week we're going to be building on what we've spoken before to really learn how to work with all the elements within us and how to shift our energy and create new patterns that we're aligning with who we're here to be. So does anyone have any questions? Air is definitely healing, Joe. We can't live without it. And the clearer we get in our air element and the energy of our thoughts, the clearer the greater consciousness of which we're all part becomes. So we're all doing our little bit, taking responsibility and cleaning up our little piece of the planet, which is us here inside. We shift inside, it shifts externally, internally. So change begins within us. If we want to see change on the planet, it begins with us. So I hope that's been helpful. Does anyone have any questions before we finish up? We've gone a little bit over time. I thank you for hanging in there. Next week I might be a little bit more concise. Next week we're going to be, as I said, talking about the water element and our emotions and how we can shift our energy emotionally. And that's going to be on Monday night, so that's next Monday. I will be putting the recording of this up on my website. If you're listening after tonight and you want to join us next week, then please go to my professional Facebook page and join us here next Monday night. Invite your friends, invite your family to join in the call. The whole point of these calls is to really start creating community and bringing together like-hearted people. You know, we talk about like-minded people, but that can keep us stuck in that mental energy that we're operating from here upwards. And really the connection takes place from here, from the heart, from the soul. So my intent is to create a like-hearted community where we can all come together and share and uplift each other and empower and encourage each other. So you sharing your comments tonight has helped create more of a ripple effect and help bring us together on this call. So thank you for contributing and being part of the call, not just showing up, but contributing your comments and really helping with the exploration, because I'm here to serve you, you're here to serve the people you're here to serve in your life, and together we're creating that greater heart connection within ourselves and on the planet. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Susie. So helpful. Thank you so much. Do take care. Have a wonderful week. Be aware of the energy of your thoughts. Take that into your week and look at how you can shift the energy of your thoughts as you go about your week. Because of course, what we do here on the call, it's like yoga. You can learn yoga, what you do on the mat, but what really matters is when you apply yoga off the mat. Same thing with these calls. We're here to share and learn, but it's what we do with it in our week as we go about our day-to-day life. So just take one thing that we've explored tonight and apply that during your week. And add comments to the chat, send me a message or an email and let me know how the week's gone. And I look forward to seeing you again on Monday night next week at 8 o'clock Sydney, Melbourne time. Thank you so much. Mwah, kisses. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.